to the pot one first. Yeah. So when it comes back to the prize conversation, y'all know when y'all was having this argument, I sat at that table and I kept saying, y'all need to stop doing this. So one of the biggest problems first let's answer the question. Who determines who the prize is? I think that the individual determines who the prize is. Like if you're the woman, I think that you're going to hold the value of making a decision whether or not that man is the prize, not more so whether you are the prize. Like and the man, vice versa. I also give the analogy of this, and this is one of the analogies I got from that Men Are Men show when the females was having the conversation, and people were talking when people had these conversations about being prized. Y'all all heard the saying of the last man's trash is another man's treasure. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about prize, and I was thinking about this when people give the example, right? And I used the example on that show about if you got 20 guys and then you came across that one guy who was the so-called top notch, how does it all of a sudden become that's your standard now? You of that one guy, even though all the 20 guys were this. So if you're claiming to be the prize, and this is going to stem into my next question, but if you are the prize, what work left is there any work for you to do? If you just are, man, if you come in, you say, I'm just a prize, like that guy has to determine and see the value in you, whether or not to see if you are actually a treasure or not. It can't be self-proclaimed, because to me, if I use the 20 guy reference, to me, if you dealt with 19 guys and then, and they kept, and I ain't gonna say all of them, but they gave the premise of the 19 guys was basically warm-ups for that 20 guy, the guy who really was, that. I think my girl Izzy said that, if I'm gonna be more particular, but maybe the rest of them agreed. But my point is, one could argue that you were just 19, you were just trash all the way through. And now because you got a nigga who you claim to be elite for whatever it is that you think that is, that now you feel like your value skyrocketed, even though you was dealing with trash, all the way through. But the moment you stay in value, it changes. And this is a big issue that I see when I hear men and women have conversations, that when a woman meet a man of a certain stature, and I said this before, all of a sudden her standard is just now this, even though that's not even your realm, baby. One thing I can at least commend about men is if that man dealt with 19 women and he got came across that dime and that bad chick, he can at least say, nigga, I was lucky. His whole spectrum don't change. It's not all of a sudden, hey, that's all I get is bad women. Now I only get 10s. No, that man know, nigga, I was lucky enough to get this 10. But with women, that's not the case. You come across that one, that's just your standard now. Even though the other 19 was just bullshit. It's just that now I only get this type of guy. This is where my limit is. But your whole track record is that you didn't, that's not even what you get. That's not your realm.
Just like Jessica said, we go through this evolving period where we got to get these experiences to know exactly what we want. We don't know as young adults. And now that when I got to that 20th man, I'm older and I know what I want and he meet the requirements, why can I not keep my standard there?
I'm glad. Wait. I'm glad you said this, right? Because it was something I wrote down that I wanted to go back to. One of y'all chose to say, out y'all own mouth, I'm take my glasses off for this one. One of y'all chose to say, going off what you said, but women mature faster though.
Mature.
So you mean to tell me, mature woman?
I'm mature, yeah.
You mean to tell me, mature woman? That you did all this fuck up, and you so mature that it took the 20 before you got the realization?
Honestly, I think 20 is a lot anyway, the number that you use. I'm just going off what you said. But that not necessarily mean that every woman is going through 19, 20 men. Like, it might be her third or her fourth or her fifth or whatever. Like,
it don't have to be taken literal. The example simply pointed to the probability factor that if the majority of what you had, it don't have to be.
If you want me to stay,
you don't have to get tied into the 20. The purpose of what I'm saying is that the majority of what you come across is not that. I don't care if it's 5. We can lower it. We can say 5. And the 4 wasn't that, but then you got 1. My whole thing is probability. See, the problem I hear a lot of times with women argue possibility too much. anything is possible. So it's stupid to have possibility conversations. See, I come in with a probability standpoint that if your ratio, if you got 5, we'll lower it because Priest don't want the number 20 because that's too big for us. So we go to 5. If you take 5 guys and you had 4 who wasn't where they needed to be and 1 was your standard, sweetheart, your probability factor still shows that that's not your realm.
It may not be that that's my standard. It could just be that that's what I realize now. This is great. We just have something about personal growth I want moving forward. Just because the last 3 or 4 wasn't shit, now I got this great dude. That's part of evolution. Okay, now I see how I can treat it now.
Wasn't that the question?
I see growth. Yeah, I see how I'm treated now. I see I wasn't treated before, now this is the new standard. Now I want to be treated this way going forward. It's part of growth.
The problem with Caprice on the personal growth argument is you didn't grow. You just came across an experience, but wait. Hold
are part of growth.
You didn't actually grow. Because you got an experience, now you just claiming this is your growth because you want it. It's your growth because you want it.
A part of
your experience is not a part of your growth.
But you're missing my point. Just because you come across it, that doesn't mean you're growing. You're trying to say because you came across it, now you're just all of a sudden grown. Because you had a different experience, you're grown now. No, that's not true.
I'm growing my standards. Now that I know what I want, I'm growing my standards. My standards wasn't how it was with them other 4 men. But now that I know exactly what I want, and my standards have grown. Yes, that's part
and
of
maybe you didn't
or no, Kevin, not even that, Kevin. What if I did?
But your standards.
Or no, what if I did? No, what if I did have those standards and you didn't meet them 1 through 3, and it just so happened on number 4 you met them?
But why you stay with 1 through 3 then? It wasn't your standard.
I didn't. Clearly, I didn't.
Well, why it took you so long though?
Because you didn't own up to it. Because you didn't meet the standard. I chose to be the bigger person, and I chose to
meet the standards. You didn't meet the
standards. No, I'm not.
This is the issue I have with that. I don't mind if you come across experience, your standards going up. The issue that most men have with it is, are you willing to meet the standards of that type of person you want as well? And a lot of females, they have that experience. And a lot of people that have.
And what are we calling standards? Bare minimum.
We need to start having this conversation like we speaking for a lot of women. Like,
we
see the women on the internet that feel like they don't need to do nothing to get the men that they want, but that's not majority of women.
A lot of times, if you come across the guy on the 20th guy, he's this awesome guy, and guys typically like that don't deal with women typically of the caliber that you are, as far as the fitness level, the beauty level, this and that. Are you willing to become that to get those type of guys? Or do you think because that one guy gave you a shot that the market is going to dictate that now? That every man of that caliber is going to give you a shot because that one guy gave you a shot. Guys typically of that caliber don't deal with females typically of your caliber.
If my standards
he don't deal with me, then why am I even dealing with him?
If my standards grown, and this is
not changing who I am. I am not changing who I am for some dude. Oh, you not physically fit. Let me go get physically fit because he wants me to be physically fit. No, fuck him. Because I am who I am. But if we're talking about standards,
it's crazy to
standards evolve and standards change over time.
But you're not
in these different experiences, and we see, okay, I was in this and I don't like this, and I go to the next one. Oh, I like this. Now my experiences and my standards have changed.
But then
what I like.
But then the standards for yourself had to change. If you got lucky, right? Let's say, example, you got lucky and somebody gave you a job that typically requires a degree. It typically requires 10 years of experience. But you had a connection or something. Then you lose that job. Are you not only going to apply for jobs like that, or do you say, you know what, that is my new standard now, so let me go back to school and get education and get that so I can get that job now? A lot of females say, well, I got it one time, so I want everybody to take a chance on me now because that's
my female are you speaking of? Because if the requirements are the requirements for a job, then we're going to make sure we have those requirements. I don't know. You went left.
When we speak on, I don't know, y'all. When we talking about standards here, I'm talking standards, I mean, the bare minimum. When you walk into a room, it's common courtesy to say good morning. You speak. It's common courtesy to acknowledge that person. Are we talking about that, or what standards are we talking about? We going back to monetary again?
It's the standards that
because if I'm with you and I'm on this first person and this first person can't acknowledge me, or you barely speak to me, but you got time for everybody else, that's not what I want. So boom, I'm moving on to number two. And if you show those same things that number one show, I don't want to deal with it.
But your standards are more
number three.
Mature. Most females, that's not
correct. So that's what I'm saying. What are we speaking on when we say standards?
That's what I'm getting.
Finances. If they come across a man that could take care of their lifestyle, make a certain amount of money. Now that's what she's looking for her next man to be. It's always a financial thing with men.
Correct. It's always monetary, and I'm not just, and that's why I can't, because it's not monetary.
Complaining about. You keep saying it's only financial. They wouldn't be complaining. You think men want to be giving women all their money if women didn't demand it? Like they only talk of financial because that's what women are complaining about.
Who's
complaining? How many women wake up and complain because they weren't acknowledged in a certain aspect that they should have been acknowledged in? It's not always about money.
It's not. Let me tell you something. I was in a relationship, and that was the thing. He always talked about, I provide this. I never asked him for a drop, for a piece of gas, for a penny for gas. But he would always bring up the financial, bring up the financial and everything. And I never asked for anything because I got my own. I don't need it. That's it. So my thing is, y'all don't know how to separate the two. We're talking something deeper. We're not talking financial.
It's okay, John. I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna say the last thing. I think because we all know KJ deals with a group of people that are typically more mature than the rest of the people, because KJ don't deal with anybody. So this panel is a different type of group than the general aspect of what these conversations are about. So when we speak of generally, it may not apply to you personally. I think a lot of times when you speak of generally, y'all looking at, well, I would never do that, so I don't get it. We're not talking about you personally. We're talking about generally. And generally, when women come across a certain type of guy, when they raise their standard, they're not just talking about the way they be treated. They're talking about them dealing with regular guys, and all of a sudden they get flown out to Miami, and now they think I only can deal with guys that live this lifestyle.
And I think men are taking women on the internet words to so much face value. It's crazy, because if that woman like the man, it don't matter. Well, I can't say no matter how much money he makes, as long as he take care of himself or whatever. But she not putting no price on it because I like you. Now, when you come across some women that be like, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that, she don't fuck with you. She don't like you. And she looking for a reason to like you. Now, if you meet my financial standards, I can fuck with you for a little while until I find a nigga that I like.
And do you think the percentage of women like that is very small in today's society? The women that's 30 and under, you think that percentage is small of women that think like that?
I think most women are fucking with niggas that don't meet the standards that they talking about.
I'm not talking about just getting sex with a dude. I'm talking about actually willing to submit to that guy.
See, we going back to submission. I didn't know that this was about submission. We was talking about what was